Now, the Executive has issued a joint response for the first time since a spate of racist and sectarian attacks in parts of Northern Ireland, including North Belfast, Ballymena and Donaghadee. Stormont leaders had been under pressure to respond to the violence amid calls for greater political leadership. Our political editor, Enda McClafferty, joins me now from Stormont. Enda.
Yes, Tara, no family should have to barricade themselves into their home for safety. That was a stark message today from the First Minister, Michelle O'Neill, in this political show of unity in the face of these racist attacks. I think our politicians today were mindful of the fact that they have been criticised in recent weeks by some of those people who've been on the front line and on the receiving end of these racist attacks. And they were determined today to show some leadership, give words and also talk about the actions that they plan to take. Well, our political correspondent, Gareth Gordon, has been following today's developments.
Burning issue, growing problem. We entered the summer dealing with racist attacks and we end it the same way.
There have been several occasions where dozens of shameful comments have been posted in response to appeals for information about missing children from ethnic minority backgrounds. What is going on? Such naked racism has become all too common and blatant in the online space. Against this background, it was no surprise that racially motivated hate crime and incidents have increased dramatically in the last 12 months. These are now at their highest level since we began recording in 2004.
The Chief Constable was speaking as the Executive returned from its summer break.
Start of a new term, and the meeting today reflected a sense of energy and enthusiasm as we get back to business and continue to deliver for the people of Northern Ireland.
For all the evident enthusiasm, the first Executive meeting in 6 weeks could not hide the frustration of politicians accused this week of a failure of leadership.
I think you can take absolutely by read that any act of threat, violence or intimidation will be condemned by me, that I am against it. But of course, unfortunately, and we discussed this at the Executive, we find ourselves so frequently in the situation of having to come out time and time again to condemn this. What we're focused on is trying to eliminate those threats and intimidation from happening.
Most importantly, political leadership's required. Political leadership's required to send out that message that we will not accept this behaviour, and it does not reflect the vast majority of society, in my opinion. This is a small minority of people who are causing havoc, and it needs to be dealt with at a criminal level in terms of a policing response, but also then judiciary and everything else. So we need to throw everything that we have to ensure we create a society that's inclusive and welcoming.
Events on the streets could yet test that show of unity on show today. Words, of course, are important, but these politicians know they will be judged on their actions, and they may not have much time. Gareth Gordon, BBC Newsline, Stormont Castle.
What do you think about today's show of unity? What difference will it make in the communities where these attacks are happening?
Well, Tara, nobody here is naive enough to believe that what was said today here at Stormont will have any impact whatsoever on those people behind the racist attacks. I think what today was all about, in a sense, was to reach out to the migrant community in Northern Ireland who are feeling quite vulnerable right now, to let them know that the political leadership here collectively is behind them and also is willing to step up in terms of offering practical help. There was talk today about the policing response as well, and to that end, we learned that 57 people so far have been arrested in connection with the trouble, 14 of them juveniles. But I think what the politicians and the police both agree on is that this is not coming to an end anytime soon. The immigration debate, as we know, is raging right across the UK, and it's going to take much more than political and police messaging to bring any of that to an end.
And Enda, we also found out today that Sinn Féin received a substantial donation from the daughter of a well-known Irish literary figure. What more can you tell us about that?
Yes, £338,000, Tara, to be exact. Money received by Sinn Féin from Peggy O'Sullivan, who died 3 years ago at her home in England at the age of 96. She was a lifelong Republican. We don't know much else about her, but we do know a lot about her father, Liam O'Flaherty, because he was a well-known Irish novelist from the late 20th century who wrote 16 books in total, and one of them, called The Informer, was later adapted into a film by the Hollywood director John Ford. Now, we learned about this donation today through the Electoral Commission, which publishes updates from time to time, and we also learned today from the Electoral Commission that this money went to Sinn Féin in May of this year.
Enda at Stormont, thank you.